City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 27 August 2024. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the Council, including transferring outside Australia.
Good evening. Council acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today, and we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people who are maybe with us tonight. The Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make, while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly, and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. I now ask all those present to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. I now move to the agenda and item 6, apologies and leave of absence. Only one member is absent, Councillor Martin. He's on leave. Could I ask someone to move the minutes as printed? Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Abrahimzadeh. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you unanimously. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No. If not, I'll move on. We have no deputations or petitions. I now move to item 11, which is the Audit and Risk Committee report. Could I ask maybe Councillor Lee to move that? Moved by Councillor Lee. All those seconded by...
I have a question.
Well, we need it seconded first. Okay. Councillor Abrahimzadeh, seconded. Councillor Lee, do you wish to speak to it first?
I'll reserve my right. I was an apology for that meeting.
Councillor Abrahimzadeh. Councillor Davis, your question.
Thank you. So, item 1.2, there was an operating... oh, wait, have I got that right? Anyway, I believe that there's an operating surplus of an additional $2 million. Sorry, of $8 million, and I believe there was an underspend. We were expected to go into $23 million worth of debt, and we currently have $0 worth of debt. Where's the difference in the spend? Or essentially, how do we get from a debt position expected of $23 million to now being $0 in debt?
I'll ask through the CEO that can be answered.
Through the presiding member, Mr Smartellis, we able to answer the question, or do we need to take it on notice?
I'm sorry, I don't recall that number of 23 million, so we might take the question on notice. Thank you.
Well, through the chair, we did provide an e-news with that reconciliation, so I can find that and forward that to the councillor.
Could we have the answer in the council meeting? And just so you know, it's in our long-term financial plan, Lord Mayor. If you could find that and then present that when you're ready.
Thank you. You've asked your question, which has been taken on notice. Any other members wish to speak to this item? Councillor Kouros.
May I request with administration, that question was also asked a week ago in the committee, if they could, instead of sending it through e-news, yes, instead of sending it through e-news, since it was a very important question, could they have sent it as an email, because it was missed?
We'll bring it back to the next meeting so it's easily to identify. Is there any other debate on this matter? On the item as printed, that's the recommendation. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. Item 12. Am I able to get someone to move these recommendations, Councillor Elliott, en bloc? 1 and 2 together, thank you. It hasn't been seconded. Deputy Lord Mayor? Sorry.
I have an amendment with 7.2.
Lord Mayor, I also have an amendment that I've sent to the administration.
So, can I suggest that we... I'm sorry? Yeah. I think that recommendation 1 is not contentious. Can we take that to the vote first, with your permission, Councillor Elliott? All those in favour of recommendation 1? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Councillor Kouros, would you like to give us your amendment?
Sorry, Lord Mayor, is there someone else that has an amendment to the same item?
I do. I sent it through to administration earlier today.
Can we incorporate them?
Can we see if they can be
together?
incorporated?
Through the presiding member, I'd suggest the amendment proposed by Councillor Kouros is an additional, so that's quite straightforward, whereas the amendment proposed by Councillor Giles is an amendment to the second arm of the committee recommendation.
Oh, okay. So how would you like to manage that?
So
Do I go first? Or
if you can't assemble them, and
I'm happy to assemble them. Do you want to assemble them?
Take Councillor Kouros first, because it's an
yes.
addition.
Okay.
So Councillor Kouros, you're going to move part 5 of this,
Okay.
and if you wanted to incorporate the other one, you could. I'm just asking. Otherwise, we'll just vote on this one
Let's
first.
vote on this one first.
Okay.
Might be easier.
Trying to make it too easy.
No,
sorry.
it's not complicated. So I have an additional additional item to this recommendation that's in support of the precinct vitality. Request that administration, as I progress.
Can I just ask if someone seconded it? Was it Councillor Abrahim's?
As I progress towards achieving 70% design completion of the O'Connell Street Main Street project, investigate and identify options to promote additional parking areas and zones within the precinct. This information to be integrated into the ongoing design work to ensure comprehensive planning and to support the needs of the local business and the local businesses and the community. So,
Councillor, could I just ask a question of the administration? Is 70% specific enough to be an actual?
That was the number I was given by administration.
Can I just check that?
Okay.
Through the presiding member, we can accommodate that amendment and have provided advice to Councillor Kouros in preparing this.
Okie dokie.
I did. I
Thank
see
you.
administration.
Just checking.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very simple addition to this recommendation. I spent 3 hours with the local business community on O'Connell Street today, and whilst I understand that we're going to be ironing out a lot of the concerns when we get to the design stage, they just want to have that in the front centre of the administration's mind when they're doing the design work. You know, there are several businesses within the precinct that, you know, we need to accommodate for loading zones. We have bakeries, we have dry cleaners, we have florists, we have so many different types of businesses on O'Connell Street that, you know, will be impacted by the changes that we are so looking forward to on O'Connell Street. So it's really about opening that conversation, being mindful to the type of businesses that we have, what is needed, and to work within that planning of and supporting the community. And also thinking about what is going to be impacting for the residents as well. That's really important because the residents are very much impacted currently with the Adelaide Oval. When something is happening there, they use the North Adelaide as a place to park and go into the Adelaide Oval. So we just don't want to have, during this process when we do the designing, a stress and impacting the O'Connell Street further and the businesses.
have a point of order. That the proposed motion, which says that they, in principle, support the concept plans, is in contradiction. Oh, you're going to... Okay.
I don't think it is in contradiction. It doesn't require a rescission motion because one is to request the review. I think it still requires a review. Have I misunderstood?
No, sorry. I understand what she's doing now. I thought that was a last motion, but this is deleting the...
I think that there's no question that this is a rescission. And seconder for that? Councillor Noon, yes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm moving this because my understanding of the Hutt Street proposal is that there's been significant amount of discussion about what would make Hutt Street work over a long period of time, including the Lord Mayor Roundtable that was held over a long period of time, where traders and residents were sitting together and working out what can make the Hutt Street precinct a true high street. The focus of the original proposal just on parking, I don't think clearly reflects the community's concerns about also making sure we have good public spaces and that there's ability for cycling to be managed well in that area. And my understanding is there's a huge amount of goodwill between people in that area, between the residents and business. And what I'm asking for is that we go back and we, in principle, support the original plan, which has come out of lots of consultation, and the public has been involved in that consultation, and that we actually ask the administration to come to actually have a further discussion with people in the area and do some research and come back with some proposals where we might better balance the needs of parking, public space and cycling, so that we can actually come and look at whether there's any other proposals instead of just focusing, as the original did, on the parking issue. My experience of high streets, and many of us would have those experiences all over the world, let alone over this country, and even in this city, is that the most important thing in a high street to make people come and spend time there is the ability to walk up and down. And what a really good example of that is Jetty Road. There's very little parking in Jetty Road, but people, there's a good balance between public spaces, retail, and also cycling, although that's a big problem when you get to the tram stop. So what I'm suggesting is that there's another way of looking at this so that we can make sure we balance everybody's needs, because the motion as it read was different to the one recommended by administration, and I think we need some bit more time to go back out and have a talk about how we can make sure that we get enough public space and cycling in a proposal, but we also address the concerns that people may have about the parking.
Can I just, before we go on, say that your motion has been modified slightly as you've been speaking? I just want...
There were some words missed.
Oh, sorry, they were accidentally missed from the screen. I'm sorry, your whole motion is now there. Can I just ask for some advice through the CEO? Are we going to progress the concept plans before we've actually done the consultation? It's just worrying me that when we say approve in principle, it may induce an activity that's irremediable and can't be reversed.
Lord Mayor, if I could clarify my intention, I don't mean consultation in the formal council consultation sense. I mean it in terms of the way that it's previously been done by people sitting down together in a room and talking to each other, like the Lord Mayor did around the Hutt Street issue previously.
So there won't be any further work done before there's been a discussion?
Through the presiding member, based on the committee recommendation, we had a further piece of work to do. Based on the amended motion, we've still got a further piece of work to do, and that will require us to bring a revised concept back.
Thank you. So I think it was Councillor Britt, then Councillor Couros, then Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm really conscious of the very strong feedback we've been getting from a range of members of the community in this part of the city. I commend Councillor Giles in the intention regarding the further research and consultation issue around balancing car parking, public space and cycling. However, I won't be looking to support the amendment at this time, and the reason is that I believe that the appropriate way forward here is to review the concept plan, and that review is informed by that type of research. Having once again received significant feedback over the weekend and again at an event last night, I think what's in keeping with the way I see us moving forward here is would be to proceed with a review of the concept plan, but informed by the type of research that Councillor Giles is outlining there. I thought it's worthwhile providing that context before we go to a vote. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I have a question, Lord Mayor. I keep going on about it, but last term of council, we have had 3 concept plans, or 2, presented to us, and one the Hutt Street Traders presented to the council. Is it any way possible if that could be given to the elected members for them to review what has been done in the past in regards to the suggestions that the traders have given regarding cycling?
I think you can have any documents you want, yes.
Could that be given as part of the review?
I think everyone's nodding here.
Because there has been lengthy discussions in regards with the Hutt Street Traders, with the Hutt Street community throughout COVID, that developed one plan from council and one plan was developed by the Hutt Street Traders. And they went out of their way to present a concept plan. They paid for it themselves and they presented it to the council, yet we never got a chance to really deep dive into it.
So, Councillor, I'll take that as a speech you gave, not just a question. I'm not sure whether you're supporting the amendment or not. Well,
I'm unsure because I'm listening to the councillors from the South Ward, and I know that we've had discussions about Hutt Street in alternative ways that we can do bikeways there before. Why can't we have that be brought in, and does that amendment allow that to happen, I guess is the question.
CEO?
Through the presiding member, the proposed amendment does require a report back to council, so we can ensure that any report back to council covers off on any historical proposals.
So I didn't ask Councillor Noon if she wished to speak to... No? So Councillor
I wholeheartedly reject this motion, and it is absolutely not what we discussed at the last committee meeting, and that's not a recommendation from council. This is our amended motion, which was the original. The loss of the car parks, some 60 car parks, almost 70 car parks I think it is, halving it would absolutely destroy that street, and accepting or approving in principle the concept plans is certainly not something I will be doing, and certainly not something that the traders would even think for a second of doing. The reality is as well with the current concept plans that, for example, the six car parks that are proposed, parallel park in front of Mascovado, for example, they're only there, they're not there during peak times. They disappear during the main influx. And then the same thing happens on the other side of the road as well. These concept plans need to be redrawn, and they need to have an emphasis on retaining the car parks over retaining the bike lane there. There is no point in delivering a main street upgrade if there are no traders on the site, if vacancy rates soar and they can't afford to be on the street, but it would be nice if someone could ride their bike down Hutt Street. There won't be anywhere for them to stop for coffee. Now, the 3 ward councillors attended a meeting last night. There was some very, very strong position put around car parking, and that was that they did not want to lose those car parks, which are essential to their business, essential to their livelihood and their families. The second thing was in relation to footpaths being repaved, being flatter and lighter in colour, much better lighting, the potential for parklets, more disabled car parking, scooters off the footpath, and as well those concerns around outdoor dining fees. Now, that was a discussion that the 3 ward councillors went to and attended, which probably got quite heated in certain circumstances, but on no circumstances should this council take the position that it approves in principle the concept plans, because the Hutt Street traders certainly do not approve in principle the proposed concept plans. Now, what the administration, well, what the committee was asking of the administration is, when it drafted this motion, was to go and redraw that plan and go and have a long chat with the traders about what can be done in terms of maximising the different assets there, but a massive emphasis on retaining the car parks as is. This does the complete opposite and sends a signal to the administration that we approve the loss of the car parks, which will never be accepted by the traders. And I'm really disappointed that the member didn't talk to myself, at least, I can't speak for the other two, about a proposed motion. I find that extremely disrespectful, considering that we went and met with the traders on that street the night before.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Lord Mayor, and then we'll ask to close debate.
I have a very different view in a lot of that from my fellow South Ward councillor, although I do politely ask, but perhaps next time, with respect, Councillor Giles, if you could talk to your fellow South Ward councillors, because this came out of the blue, and there's a lot of things happening in this space. What I do want to ask, though, is the administration, in principle, is there any difference in the amendment to the original motion in regards to what we're intending to do, as in go out there, talk to people, tweak things, go back to the drawing board in various issues? Is there any substantive difference between the amendment of Part 2 and the original Part 2?
Through the presiding member, I don't propose to enter the debate. The recommendation from committee was very clear in terms of requesting a review of concept plans. The proposed amendment approves in principle the concept plans, so there's certainly a flavour of difference, noting that the further research and consultation is about similar issues. Either direction of council the administration can work with, noting that regardless we will need to bring a report back to the committee with a revised concept. So.
Thank you for that clarity. Look, this is a tough one because I've made my position very clear. I support the inclusion of cycle paths, the greenery, and additional space for pedestrians and public space. I also do not support, if where possible, the decrease of parking. And my understanding is that that is a position of most of the people in this room, and that's a position that we took with the original motion from committee. I want to see that work done before we approve anything. So even though our values, Councillor Giles and Councillor Noon, through the chair, align very much closer to, forgive me, Councillor Davis, I still don't think I can support this amendment because I was already happy with the path we were going down, which I believe would accomplish what we want to achieve for that public realm design. And so, out of an abundance of caution, I would not support the amendment.
I'm just wondering if perhaps we could make just another minor amendment that says something like, during the review of the concept plans, that we conduct further research and consultation. So basically we're going to actually, accepting that we're reviewing it, but this is what we really need to focus on.
I appreciate that you're trying to help to compromise, but I think it's beginning to look like a sow's ear, as opposed to a silk purse. Sorry about that. I'm not sure that will help us.
There's three key words leading.
Doesn't know not getting advice. One is requests a review and the other one approves in principle. So there's a fundamental difference. Sorry, Councillor Noon, did you wish to say anything else?
Yeah, I probably can't second it.
You can still second and vote against it. You're allowed to do that.
Can I
I think you have to just admit that's on the books, and Councillor Giles will sum up, and you're absolutely at liberty to vote against her.
Thank you. In summing up, I would like to say that it's all very well to say that you've received strong feedback. I also have received strong feedback from people saying, please support the cycling and the open space and the greenery, and we want changes to happen on this street because it's not working. And it's the Hutt Street Traders is a very interesting group of people because they don't all agree with each other. There's a range of views within that group, and to stereotype traders as being for one thing and people who are not traders being for another thing is a stereotype, particularly in an area where 4,000 people, the second most populous area of our city, live, and every day would move around and use this part of the city to have their coffees, and that's going to expand significantly as our population grows, with the estimation in the report of it significantly growing the number of people. So all I'm saying is that the principle of what happened, of what came out of the good quality consultation process over many years is the proposal that was put to us at the committee. I've always supported that proposal and said so at the meeting. And what we're seeing is, instead of saying and so what I'm trying to do is to say, okay, let's approve it in principle, but let's consider all those three issues equally, the equal value of the concerns of parking, the concerns of public space and the concerns of cycling, because that would be more fully recognising the concerns of the community, whether they be business people, whether they be residents, and from a range of backgrounds, including people who might be commuting from the inner suburbs to work every day, and the way that we're trying to make our city more cycle-friendly and more people-friendly. So it's not a radical motion. It's a motion where we go, okay, we didn't get it perfect, bring it back, have a talk, let's have a look at it again. But the original motion basically says, let's just look at how we can have more parking, and that does not meet the requirements of it does not meet the requirements of the community, in my view, because just going to one meeting didn't take into consideration all the people that had a different view. So I'm urging administration to get back out, talk to people, and in the way that community works, which is a collaborative way and an understanding and a sensible way, that the community can come up with some solutions. So it's not cars against bikes, cars against public space. It's something that the community has developed themselves.
Thank you. I'll now put that amendment to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? That is lost. I'm rather sorry I didn't get a chance to support Councillor Davis. I got so excited when he advocated getting rid of scooters on the footpath. That now becomes the motion as printed. All those in favour?
I'd like to speak. Can I speak?
Yes, if you must.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just to clarify, with a fellow councillor, I support everything that was just said. The issue was in the key words, review and approve. That was the issue. And we need to review, and I believe, and I understand administration will, as part of the review process, be talking to the stakeholders, residents, which is what we want. So I support 99% of what the councillor's motion amendment was, the key word being we need to get this review sorted before we approve anything. And I know we can do that without delaying the process. We've been assured of that. So I'll just leave it at that. And thank you for your ongoing advocacy, Councillor Giles.
Elliot, I'm
So, I
already
moved,
put my hand up.
I've been asked to address a question, Councillor Davis. I've moved, and I'm happy to wait until I sum up to provide my comments.
Thank you. I totally disagree that there are equal value of public space, businesses and cycling. It's fundamentally wrong. There is no Hutt Street without traders. There is no Hutt Street without commerciality on it. The only reason why we're upgrading Hutt Street is because it's a main street. Same thing with Hindley Street, same thing with Guja. The reason why people go there is because of the shops, because of the traders. Otherwise, it would just be a residential street like any other, and we wouldn't be having this discussion. First and foremost is the traders. The reason why we're doing this is to support the traders, to increase their occupancy, and also drive then people to the street. We support them by having more people come into the street. Now, in the reports, there is a statement that if you get rid of a car park, for every car park you get rid of, I suppose, there's the implication that you're suddenly going to get 8 bicycles coming in. It's just not true. That is not how the world works. If we cull 60 car parks, you're not going to have 60 times 8 cyclists appearing magically on the space. People in Adelaide drive their cars. The City of Adelaide is built for cars, and we need to accept that reality. The traders need those car parks to bring in customers to their businesses. Now, in terms of this stereotype that they don't all agree, I can say very loud and clear that last night they were very much in agreement that those car parks are their livelihood. They bring in income to the street, and that's what keeps their businesses going. So when I'm weighing the priorities of these matters, and this is why I think we need to do a review, this is why I was opposed to accepting in-principle support, is because I don't accept in-principle support of the current plan there. I want a review. I'm speaking to this motion. I want a review of the current concept plans that is going to address the fundamental concern of the traders, which is their loss of car parks. And I also do not support the idea that car parks would, that you can't actually park in them during peak hour. It defeats the entire purpose of that. What is the point of having 6 car parks that aren't there in peak hour when before work people want to stop, grab a coffee, grab their breakfast and then move on to work? The angled car parking as it is, I think serves the area as best as it can, and I would not be in favour of removing them, and I'm certainly not in favour of expanding the footpath to the extent that's been proposed, and a lot of traders are against that. They're not necessarily after an expanded footpath. What they want is a renewed footpath with better surfaces. They want better lighting. They want the ability to put in parklets if the demand should be there. They want better greenery. They want more disabled car parks. They want scooters to not run into their customers as they move in between their shops. And they're also very concerned about outdoor dining fees. One final question. I still don't understand when the $20 million has gone and how it's gone from a $40 million budget down to 20 and what the differences are.
Sorry, that's not before the Chair.
It is a question on notice, though.
Were there any other... Councillor Stephen Tritt, we're going to move around that board, I can see it.
Be very brief. Lord Mayor, first thing I wanted to do is thank the administration, in particular Mr McCready, for attending a community event last night. It's important that we have factual information entering into any debate where that occurs across the city, and I thought Mr McCready did an excellent job under extensive range of questions, so note of thanks there. My second question was, and this is a question for the administration, is it safe to assume that in assessing what's required for the provision of car parking spaces, that would also consider impacts as it relates to open space and cycling? Because I think there was merit in some of those elements that were in Councillor Giles' previous motion or amendment that didn't get through. Would we naturally be looking, as part of looking at that car parking spaces question, also impact around open space on the street as well as cycling infrastructure?
Mr Sedgman, through you.
Again, I hesitate to enter debate considering the contrary views of various members, but best endeavours.
Then, before you sum up, Councillor Ho.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would like to just thank all the South Ward councillors for providing so much inside information. Because over the last week, I have received quite a lot of emails basically asking to support the concept plan, and I was going to support the amendment moved by Councillor Giles. And thank you for those inside information about the meetings with the traders from Councillor Davis as well as the Deputy Lord Mayor. It is important that, of course, we can't get everything on the same plan. You can't have everything. and traders or the stakeholders not always agree with each other. But that's why we are here, and that's why we need administrations to have public consultations, to work closely with the community, the people who know their area better than any of us in this room, that provide the real feedbacks. Therefore, we are able to make some firm decisions in this chamber. Again, thank you all the councillors for providing all those feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to sum up, and whilst I wasn't around in 1836 when the city was founded, I'll note that there was no cars in the city at that point, but I'm pretty sure that's when we started building it. And the principle at that point was to provide a lot of space for people to be able to move about and conduct their business freely and in a healthy manner, let the sun actually touch the ground. So whilst there's claims that the City of Adelaide may have been built for cars, I think it's quite historically far more accurate to say that Adelaide was rebuilt for cars. At the time that our parking amenity reached its zenith, our population in the city was bottoming out. We had more parking spaces than we did people living in the city, and we had far more people living in the city a century before. But I want to reflect on the conversation that was had at committee last week, because what happened there was that there was a unanimous decision of the committee, an almost unanimous decision of the committee, always happy to be fact-checked, near unanimous decision of the committee to progress the current recommendation that was before us, that was to review the concept plan. And I want to note that almost all members of the committee expressed their optimism to the effects of the upgrades that would have on safety, amenity and business. It wasn't a discussion of this group versus that group, but that's certainly arisen in the last few days. But that hasn't happened from committee, and that hasn't happened from the vast majority of members of this council nor members of that committee. It was a near unanimous decision to review, and that was before it even got to the public. That was our committee preempting the issues and trying to take the initiative to make sure that everyone's views were fairly and accurately represented. So it wasn't a straw man argument of this group versus that group based on assumptions of mutually exclusive needs and desires. So it's fitting that we come to this point where we're now discussing whether we're going to support in principle, because we've had this go to public consultation twice now, under the previous term of council and under this term of council. And the community has broadly supported all the intents and outcomes that it has proponed. And that is the increased greening, that's the increased public space, that's the provision of bikeways, the potential for there to be a tramway. And guess what? All those things provide people far more options to get to Hutt Street than just cars. And I'll reflect again on the point that the City of Adelaide was rebuilt for cars. It was never built for cars. The people that founded this place never intended this place to be completely awash with nothing but boxes of metal taking up every inch of public space. They intended people to be out in the streets socialising and dining and trading and conducting commerce and socialising. This was a city that was founded on the principles of free speech and freedom of religion, not freedom to take up as much space in your Prado or your Raptor or your whatever other crap ute you've got driving around to bomb in and deny the use of public space by everyone else around you. So I'm glad, I'll briefly sum up in the next 10 seconds, Lord Mayor. I want to express my thanks for Councillor Couros and Councillor Giles for putting forward their two amendments. I think the intent of both of them was fantastic and very much in the spirit of the discussion that was had by the majority of members of that meeting, members of the committee at that meeting, to progress the principles and the aims of these concept plans, achieve the ultimate goal of making it a much more safe and attractive place to socialise, live and do business, without it becoming just another overrun traffic sewer.
Now to the vote. All those in favour? The whole motion as on the screen. All those in favour? All those against? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to item 13. And this is of the regular CFG meeting from the 20th of August. It's my intention to take 7.1 and 7.3 together. The reason for that is that 7.2 is a bylaw debate and it has to be an absolute majority in order to progress that legislation. So if someone's happy to move...
Can we take it all in parts, Lord Mayor, please?
We can indeed, if you'd prefer. Would someone move 7.1?
I have a question.
can I just get the mover first? It's moved by Councillor Siebentrit and seconded by Councillor Noon. A question.
Yeah, it was about the debt position. I'm wondering if the administration could answer that question. That was asked at the committee meeting last week and taken on notice.
Thank you for your comments. We've got it on notice now. It was, I understand it was an undertaking last week. Now it's a question on notice. Speak to that? No?
No, reserve my right.
Is there any other debate on the matter?
Yeah, I'll speak against the motion.
I think it's pretty hard to argue against an end-of-year budget.
Well, not having the question answered of where did $13 million go is a pretty big question for me, actually. So how can I confidently vote for something where I don't have the answers to a question that I've asked? So
I'm sorry, I'm a bit mystified by this. There was an undertaking which was fulfilled by the e-news distribution.
I'm asking that question now.
So it's a repeat of the question that was undertaken to respond to it.
I don't, I've been locked out of my computer.
Councillor.
I haven't seen the e-news. I'm asking the administration a question.
Well, it is the method of communication.
I'm allowed to ask questions.
Thank you. Can you sit down?
No, sorry, I was speaking to the motion. No, I was speaking the motion saying...
Can you just sit down for a moment, please? Mr Sedgman.
Through the presiding member, and I refer to the undertaking fulfilled through e-news distribution, the reconciliation from the notional forecast debt position of $23.6 million. We had a reduced capital spend of 8.8, an increase in operating revenue of 4.1, a movement in capital grant income of 3.5 favourable, increased sale of replaced assets 0.6 million, a movement in debtors of 2.2 million, and a movement in payables of 10.4 million, which reconciled the movements from 23.6 to a positive 1.6 million cash position.
In terms of the payables,
Is this another question?
Yeah. In terms of the payables of the 10.4, what does that mean, the movement? That means we had reduced payables of 10.4?
So invoices expected by 30th of June, received and paid after year end.
Right, okay, so that payables will go into the next
Thank you,
year.
Councillor. You've had your question answered.
No, I'm asking a question so I understand it. Trying to cut me off doesn't make this process any faster.
I just think
I'd like to now speak to the motion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for answering.
You have the call. But before that happens, I just want to make sure that the mover didn't want to speak first. No, he's generously allowing you to speak first.
I don't think so. Yeah, thank you for answering that question. That answers everything. Thank you. I'm happy to support the motion.
Any other comments? If not, no summing up? We had a second? Yes, Councillor. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. 7.2 is the bylaw review, and we need to take a credible vote on this one because we need to have an absolute majority. Could someone move it? Deputy Lord Mayor moved. Councillor Siebentrit seconded. Unless there's any debate, all those in favour? All those against? It's unanimous. Thank you. We can amend those bylaws. 7.3 is the forward procurement. It's moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Giles. Unless there's any debate, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Now we're moving on to the next item, which is item 14, which is the transposition of the discussions we've just had in the CFG meeting. Would you be prepared to move that, Councillor Siebentrit, as a chair? And seconded by Councillor Noon. Would you like to speak to it?
I would. Thank you, Lord Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the administration for their support to date in working through what really is a complex set of numbers and a complex set of information. really just clarifying that what we have in front of us is that we've been seeking to agree to the broad assumptions that will underpin the modelling that then ends up in the draft long-term financial plan. So clearly not at the point of having a long-term financial plan to sign off on. We are agreeing to the broad parameters. And it was pleasing tonight to see that whilst there were some difference of views around some of these assumptions, there were also a number of areas, I think more areas than there weren't. There were more areas where we agreed around the assumptions, which was pleasing. We also supported the financial principles, and some other general reflections I have is that we're in a position where, from my perspective as chair, watching the goings-on of the committee, we still are looking at how we rebound and respond from COVID. That is a constant source which is feeding in and influencing the discussions that we have, demonstrated perhaps best by the challenges we have around the increase in costs in our asset management plans and the renewals off the back of that. I think it's also important as we continue to go through, because clearly this is not a done debate tonight, there are more numbers to work through, is that we're really looking at how do we continue to come up with a package, come up with a long-term financial plan, which is the context of cost of living pressures that we currently face. And I don't believe we're at a point yet where the clear balance across debt, rates and spending is clear at this point in time, but that's what this is all about. It's about providing the assumptions so we can do the modelling to have that next step in the debate. So again, Lord Mayor, thank you to all the members of the committee, and also thank you to the administration for their support and the work today.
Any debate? Councillor Davis.
Lord Mayor, procedural motion. I move that the motion be put. Seek a seconder.
There you go. So you want to shut down any kind of debate around our long-term financial plan?
I move procedural motion, Lord Mayor.
So much for accountability.
I move that the motion be put. And seek a seconder.
What are you so afraid of?
No?
All right, I'll withdraw that.
Councillor Davis, you have a call.
I think the last procedural motion has been an absolute disappointment, but really a showcase of how this city council wants to run its finances. At every turn, you want to deny questions, you want to shut down debate, you want to stop people from actually raising concerns or representing the community.
The council is being inaccurate as to what's actually happened and is misleading the chamber. No one supported the procedural motion. I ask him to withdraw his comments.
Okay. Councillor Davis, I recommend you stick to talking to a debate at hand, which is on the motion on screen. Thank you.
And it's been incredibly disappointing that that's been the course of action that this council has taken. Now, I have some very real concerns around our long-term financials. By my estimate, and from what I can see, in order for us not to hit a debt position of $375 million, it would require a rate increase of 27.3% in this year, or we stop maintaining our assets. Both of those things are not in a good position. Tonight we had an extremely high-level discussion about assumptions, having no real understanding of how those assumptions are really going to play into our long-term financial plan. We've had no real discussion around what the asset management plan's situation is and the brought forward spend of $43 million on the Main Street upgrades and what that really does to our renewal program at an underlying rate. We say that we're maintaining at 90 and we're bringing forward $43 million worth of asset maintenance. That means the real level of maintenance is much, much lower. And I have a real concern that we are just saddling future generations and future ratepayers and a future council with a huge amount of debt for political gain. What I want to see out of this process is that we just be open and transparent and tell the ratepayers how much it's going to cost. Now, our prudential borrowing limit is $153 million. That's when we stop being able to borrow money. We reached that limit in the 28-29 financial year. The issue is that if we're actually going to commit to these main streets, if we're going to commit to a 30%, we still need fat in the budget to be able to pay for them. And we have no real understanding of what that actually looks like in this long-term financial plan either. Now, last year we glossed over it and we ended up with a debt position in 10 years of $208 million. Some 6 months later, that increased by $107 million to $315 million, not now even including Rondell U Park. Our last estimate, based on the previously adopted assumptions by this council, was $375 million. We have taken an overarching, fluffy view about these assumptions, having no real understanding of their underlying impact. And I warn the City of Adelaide residents, the ratepayers, that you will pay for this political long-term financial plan, which is not telling you the real position of this council. And in the end, and at the end of the day, it will be our ratepayers, it will be our business owners who end up paying the cost. And I'm going to say that loud and clear here and now.
Your time is up. Do you seek an extension?
Yes, please. I'll be like 30 seconds. And it will be you. And I want to warn you in no uncertain terms that the renewal increase is going to be 10.5%. That the cost to replace the weir still requires $40 million worth of borrowings. That's if, on the condition the state government come through and fund $60 million of it, or thereabouts. I think it's probably a little bit more. That puts our city in a very, very dire circumstance, and then you add on the Main Street upgrades on top of that, and I think that we are under-delivering on what the City of Adelaide deserves in terms of its main streets. That's how you get to that debt position. So I warn you here and now, City of Adelaide ratepayers, that you're either going to pay for this with a lower quality asset renewal, a lower quality city, and that our assets will not be maintained as they should be, or two, you will end up paying for this in the future. And what I'm calling for is open and transparent discussion with our ratepayers on this topic, which so far I've been shut down at every turn, and I couldn't say how disappointed I am at my treatment in trying to raise and discuss these serious issues.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Is there anyone else like to speak on this item? In that case, Councillor Stephen Church, do you want to sum up?
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and do welcome the opportunity to sum up. Just a couple of observations, and I thank Councillor Davis for sharing his insights because they provide me with some points that I can cover as well. So ultimately we're asked to follow the process. There is a process that's followed in this council, that's followed in every single council around the state, and it's followed around the country around developing a long-term financial plan. We are currently following the process. Tonight, we're looking to sign off on a number of assumptions. I know there won't be support for all of them, but we're asking to follow up a number of assumptions in order to inform a draft financial plan. So we're following a process, and there are undoubtedly going to be trade-offs in there, because I don't think we can have our cake and eat it too. There are trade-offs that are made in any form of decision-making. We cannot have it all.
Councillor Couros, Councillor Ho, can I respectfully ask you to stop talking and listen to the Speaker? Thank you.
There are trade-offs to be made here, and I hope that we're able to flush out what those trade-offs are, because we won't be able to achieve everything we want. We need to bring those to the fore. I do challenge Councillor Davis, and I recognise you're right to your opinion that this is a political long-term financial plan. To my mind, there is nothing political about getting us back to an asset renewal funding ratio within the target band of 90 to 110%. That is one of the things we've been talking about. There is nothing political about that. There is nothing political about looking at how we maintain or renew a bridge over the Torrens. There is nothing political about how we maintain or renew a weir at the end of the Torrens. There is nothing political about what we choose to do with U Park. We may have different beliefs. We may have different beliefs on the treatment of those sites, and we welcome that as part of the discussion. And there may be some politics in our views on that. But as items, we are compelled and required to consider them as part of the long-term financial plan. So I am comfortable with the process. There are difficult discussions to come. There are complex issues to work through, and we wouldn't expect it to be any other way. But I commend this motion to, and you look forward to continue the important debates and discussions we're having in the committee and here in the chamber. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Was there a request to take this on parts earlier on? If not, I'm happy to take it on block. No, take it in parts. Would you like to pull out any particular... Oh, sorry, forgive me. With an agreement of a mover, can we take it in parts? And is there any particular parts you want to take out so I can move the rest of the block, or just go through one at a time? Fantastic. Okay, we'll go... I'll just vacate the chair.
Holding the fort. I understand we're going to take it in parts, and it's been moved on block by Councillor and the councillor's happy to do it. Okay, so shall we move 1 first? 1.1. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. 1.2. All those against? That's carried. 1.3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Against? Thank you. That's carried. 1.4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's and against? That's Councillor Abrahimzadeh, did you vote? I did, yes. Could we just take it again? 1.4. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. I'm sorry I missed your hand. 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? So we'll take 1.5 again. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. 1.6. Against? 1.7. 1.7. 1.6 carried. 1.6 was carried. 1.7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? That's carried. 1.8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Against? That's carried as well. Thank you, members. We have no reports from the CEO this week. I have some comments to make because we've had quite an exciting week with extensive celebrations and jubilation in the town hall. We've had not only Queen Adelaide's birthday but also a citizenship ceremony. This year we found 22 Adelaides to celebrate on the 15th of August. It's an annual celebration that's been occurring since only 1985. It's quite recent. Searching through the archives tell us that only 200 Adelaides have been born in the last 80 years. And so I've decided that if we're to carry on this ceremony and event, we have to get some extra children or adults. You may or may not know that Adelaide, the German name, is abbreviated to Heidi. So if you know any Heidis, as short of Adelheid, then they should be incorporated in the celebration as well. So next year we'll be searching for Heidis as well. Please keep on the lookout for them. One of the most moving events, of course, is the citizenship ceremony, and I thank those members who attended with me. This year, this event had 44 people from 22 countries. I think I've told you before that it first occurred 70 years ago in the town hall, but increasingly the range and the origins of our citizens has widened. In the last few days, or last 2 weeks rather, housing and homelessness have been a major focus of both the city and the state. And we hosted a civic reception in the town hall for the ALGA Housing Summit. It's the first one they've held, and it's a fair indication of the housing stress across the nation and in every council area that this was so well supported. More than 200 people attended from councils in every part of the nation. We also had the Homelessness Roundtable, and many of you attended that. And it was interesting that I think some of you, Councillor Kouros, attended the marvellous opening of the post office, which has been repurposed. I had a tour a few months ago, and the $200 million development with 285 guest rooms is truly splendid. I would recommend it. I suspect we won't be sleeping there tonight, as we'll be finishing a little too early, but it is the most wonderful conversion, and they have spent an enormous amount of money honouring the heritage. Moved by Deputy Lord Mayor, seconded by Councillor Kouros. Members, are there any reports? All those in favour? Sorry. Against? Carried. The councillors' reports? Yes. Okay. We haven't put that yet. Was this for your report? Yes. So DLM's going to move councillors' reports, and someone will second it. Councillor Kouros, yes, seconded it.
Just one item to report on this fortnight, Lord Mayor, and that is on the 18th of August, I attended and spoke at the rally, the second rally to save the Crown and Anchor, and which, as we know, we now believe to be a success, with the Premier stepping in after considerable pressure from the community and from the City of Adelaide and other stakeholders. We've got we believe, a win-win-win for the community, for the heritage of the building, and for the Cranker and its community itself. And I just want to report on, after the rally, I was approached by the board members of the Save the Cranker collective, and they offered their thanks to the City of Adelaide, but also to you personally, Lord Mayor, for your leadership and advocacy in this area. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, can I use this opportunity to provide a personal explanation? A couple of weeks ago, on Wednesday, 14th of August, I was interviewed by the ABC Drive program where we spoke about outdoor dining and a particular council decision that had been made a day prior to that interview. I made a comment that in the past 6 years that I have been on council, I have never had a complaint about people accessing our footpaths and experiencing access issues. I was emailed a few days after that interview where a resident reminded me that in 2019 they approached me and a number of other councillors in the previous council and raised an access issue related to some outdoor heaters that a hospitality venue had placed outside of their premises. So I wanted to put that on the record and say that in the past 6 years I have indeed received one complaint, and I guess I wanted to put that into context and say that the tens or hundreds of emails, phone calls and text messages that I've received from businesses in relation to outdoor dining, that one particular access issue that was brought to me and other councillors back in 2019, I probably should have mentioned, but I forgot to do that. So just wanted to provide that personal explanation.
Thank you for providing that clarification. I think one can be forgiven for getting something that happened 6 years ago. Any other comments from members? No? So we'll move the noting of those comments, moved by the Deputy Lord Mayor and Councillor Kouros. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Motions on notice, nil. Motions without notice, no. Councillor Davis? No. No motions without notice. Questions on notice have been tabled. Questions without notice. Councillor Davis?
I just wanted to refer to agenda item 20.5, in particular the question that I asked in terms of 1.1, and I'm happy for you to take it on notice or hold it over again. But my question was about what would be the rate increase required to meet a continuing budget of $15 million new capital spend over the next 10 years. And so I'm asking if the administration could address 1.1. It privately would be fine, but I feel that it's been somewhat confused and not quite answering the question. I'm happy to, if there's any confusion around that, to address that with the administration. But thank you.
Thank you for raising that again. We'll have an undertaking to clarify that.
And I'll, through the presiding member, I'll ask Mr Spartalis to contact you directly and address the question.
Any other questions? Councillor Giles.
Considering that we had a report about the new post office development, I would like to ask whether or not the post office clock will ever work again. It only tells an accurate time twice a day at the moment.
I don't believe that the developers have tackled that part of the building yet. It's the last part of their restoration, and people have commented on a few plants coming out of the roof and the need to get the clock sorted.
I did ask that question, Lord Mayor, while I was there at the opening, and they would you? Is that okay if I can answer that on your behalf?
Be grateful if you could answer it. Thank you, Councillor.
They mentioned that they are working on it. They have to bring some specific specific trade that knows how to use that clock. It's a very old clock. The mechanism is similar to what's in Big Ben. So they need to get an expert in to get that working, and it will be operating.
I just have a question on notice when the precinct review will be available, will be finalised.
Mr Sedgman.
Through the presiding member, I have committed to the council as part of my priorities in the first 6 months to progress a structural and resources review. The precinct review resourcing will be addressed as part of that.
Councillor Abraham Zadeh.
Lord Mayor, can I start my question without notice by providing some context? And I'm reading from a media article that was published probably about 45 minutes ago. That earlier today, work fully or partially stopped on major projects, including the Adelaide Central Market redevelopment and also 88 O'Connell Street in North Adelaide. Do we know whether if this particular action by what it seems like to be CFMEU members is going to cause any delays to any of those projects and any potential costs to our ratepayers?
I'm not able to answer that, Mr Sedgman.
Through the presiding member, Mr Macready, are we able to answer, or do we need to take it on notice?
Through you, Lord Mayor, we've been in contact with the 88 O'Connell Street and with Central Market. We believe that the incident that occurred today, which was national, is only occurring today, so they don't believe there's any great impacts. And if you noted the turnout today, it was quite low. Within Adelaide, there was about 250 individuals who gathered together, so the early indication is there should be no impact.
Supplementary?
Yes, please, Lord Mayor. So if there is any impact due to any future protests by CFMEU members, will we be notified of them?
Yes, says Mr Macready. We'll move on now to the confidential item. And I'll